Good. Did you walk here?
Yeah.
Just my time, man. It's took me like an hour or two.
Oh man, really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no problem. Where do you live? Do you live up there?
Yeah, I live back in Bathurst.
You want to ride back up?
Probably.
So,
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, have a good day.
Head east on Lakeshore Boulevard west toward Lower Spadina Avenue, then turn right onto Lower Spadina Avenue. Turn right onto Lower Spadina Avenue, then use the lane to turn right onto Queens Quay West. In 200 meters, slide left. Slide left toward Reese Street, then turn left onto Reese Street.
contact or bit.ly/help DTNS.
This is the Daily Tech News for Monday, May 11th, 2015. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, as she will most Mondays now, Veronica Belmont. How's it going, Veronica?
Fantastic. How are you guys out there?
I assume they're fine. I think they're well.
How are you, Tom Merritt?
I'm good, too.
In 200 meters, turn left onto Wellington Street West.
Ron Richards is also back so soon, Ron. It's great having you back.
Yes.
It's awesome.
It's great. It's great to be back. It's wonderful.
We have a team of stars today, and we're going to talk about an interesting article. It's part of a series that the Washington Post is doing
Turn left onto Wellington Street West.
on wearables today, and we all have different takes on wearables. We've got Android takes, we've got Fitbit takes, we've got Apple Watch takes. Let's start with our headline takes. Engadget reports Google
In 300 meters, turn right onto Niagara Street.
has stopped accepting public contributions to their Mapmaker service following a prank. Mapmaker relies on reviewers and trusted users to moderate contributions. Since the prank, Google switched temporarily to manual checks from in-house teams, but that led to a backlog of user-submitted edits, forcing Google to suspend new submissions entirely as of May 12th. Google says it's temporary. The situation is only going to last until they come up with an improved moderation system. Ron Richards, host of All About Android, were you laughing at the prank?
Of course. How could you not laugh at that prank? And I'm not surprised that it all got shut down. This is a case of we ruin good things.
I'm only surprised it took this long, frankly.
It was a
Turn right onto Niagara Street.
great execution. Points for putting it somewhere that was hard to find, and then that looked pretty good too. So.
Obviously, they need a better moderation system because something like that could and should go up.
In 600 meters, turn left onto Queen Street West.
Perhaps Wikipedia has stuff like that happen all the time, and it just goes down really fast because they're
It's a
better.
learning moment. A learning moment for sure for Google.
It's a teachable moment.
A teachable moment, that's better. The curated iOS app called NYT Now, that's New York Times Now, has dropped its $8 a month subscription fee and gone ad-supported. The app is targeted at younger readers and features selected stories from the New York Times as well as other sources around the web. The newspaper's main apps still carry a fee of $15 to $35 a month. This is also expected. I was surprised they didn't just kick the whole thing off being ad-supported because that's what people are used to at this point. And it's a lot harder to get younger readers to chip in for a subscription model, I would think.
I've been saying for a long time that these paywalls are temporary measures as we wait for enough of the advertising money to move online. And certainly some players are going to get shaken out of this market, like in all markets that are disrupted by the internet. But I bet the majority of New York Times have been ad-supported and subscription-free within the next 5 years.
I hope sooner. I'm looking forward to that very much, actually. I can't stand getting that little notification of you have read 3 out of your 5 free articles for the month. I'm like, okay.
Oh, switching to Opera.
Right. Yeah, moving to something else.
But I like to believe in an ad-free subscription-based world. I mean, like it's the same idea that if you subscribe to the paper, you get delivered. I guess there are ads in the paper too, like Step-Up works. But
Ah, cursed by the old school
In 200 meters, turn left onto Tecumseh Street.
model of ads for thing.
I like where
It's
you're
like,
going,
oh,
though. I like where you're going, though, where
Turn left onto Tecumseh Street.
we come to a world where things are ad-supported, but then you can pay a subscription fee and get fewer or no ads in your news source. TechCrunch reports Microsoft announced investments in 3 undersea cable projects. The new cross-Pacific cable network will connect China, South Korea, Taiwan, and Japan with the U.S. via Hillsboro, Oregon. A deal with Hibernia will offer faster connectivity between Canada, Ireland, and the UK. The Hibernia Express cable launching in September.
In 200 meters, turn left onto Queen Street West.
There is the first new transatlantic cable in 12 years and will handle up to 10 terabits per second per cable pair. And Microsoft is going to be the first customer of another transatlantic cable,
Turn left onto Queen Street West.
the Aquacom's upcoming AE Connect cable between Shirley, New York and the west coast of Ireland. So more connectivity, more cables, it's good.
I love that in this world of wireless and all this sort of stuff is that there's actually big fat cables on the bottom of the ocean connecting continents.
Oh yeah, we would not be
we
getting our
talked
data
about
around.
that.
Yeah, I love it.
At the end of the day, you gotta have those cables somewhere under the sea to make it all come together. I mean, that is kind of our fail-safe when all the satellites blow up in the impending alien invasion.
Right, exactly.
So
That is
we
what
gotta
I
keep
would.
that in mind.
It's nice to see that Shirley, New York will keep Long Island connected, so that they'll be covered in the post-apocalyptic world.
It
There
is
you go.
interesting where they come ashore, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. The Wall Street Journal notes that NASDAQ OMX Group is starting a pilot project to use a blockchain to verify transactions in its NASDAQ private market. The blockchain is the public ledger system used to verify Bitcoin transactions. Trading among pre-IPO companies in the private market currently is often done by hand.
By hand, in spreadsheets.
hand.
In spreadsheets.
No, I like
On ledger.
Continue on the Queen Street west for 1 kilometer.
big books that are like landscape.
Written
People
by
with
monks.
powdered wigs.
I like how you went powdered wigs and I went monks. So that just,
Yeah,
I guess
I'm a little more modern than you.
I'm dating myself with that.
No, but this is really cool though, because I mean I know Bitcoin gets a bit of a bad rap, but if you talk to anybody who's actually looked at it, apparently like the underlying blockchain stuff like that is described as some of the most elegant code ever written, and like it's really is secure. So it's interesting to see NASDAQ going that way.
I've been hearing a lot of buzz about this in the financial industry, and not for the Bitcoin side of things. There is a section of the financial industry excited about the prospect of Bitcoin itself, but the blockchain has even more people excited. This can be used to verify contracts, to sign agreements, all kinds of things. This NASDAQ one is one of the highest profile tests out there. Next Thing Company, based in Oakland, California, is planning to build a $9 computer called Chip, according to Fortune. The machine is built around a 1 gigahertz ARM processor from Allwinner Technology in China, 512 megabytes of RAM, and 4 gigabytes of storage. It comes with Wi-Fi and Bluetooth connectivity. To save cost, integrated video is a composite video port, though. However, you can get a VGA or HDMI adapter add-on for $10 or $15 respectively. The chip is available from Next Thing's Kickstarter, which has raised close to $1 million in 5 days, well past its $50,000 goal. And Stacey Higginbotham at Fortune makes the great point that a $9 computer like this makes a lot of Internet of Things, mobile computing sensors affordable in a way that they couldn't even on the Raspberry Pi platform.
This actually reminds me a lot of the One Laptop Per Child project, though it seems to be marketed towards a different segment of the population, whereas the OLPC was really being sent out to kind of third world developing countries to teach kids computer skills and to kind of get them online. This seems more, I'm not sure, more...
It's more for the maker
for everybody?
community.
More for the maker community? Yeah.
Yeah, and Raspberry Pi was focused at that education, but I see more and more maker-type people using it, and so it's interesting. They also, that also the pocket chip or whatever, the screen and the keyboard that they had that the chip could plug into. It definitely looks to be kind of hackery and that sort of thing. But I love these low-cost, devices that for 10 to 25 bucks allow you to have a computer that's the size of an NFC card and wireless with everything and get online and start tinkering with it. That's really cool. Like these are the kind of things I wish we had when we were kids.
Stacey Higginbotham's article points out that at $9 you can make a lot of $99 devices, which is, just psychologically much more affordable. It's considered much more affordable, and somebody might on an impulse buy something for their home connected to the internet, some kind of connective sensor. If it's $99 versus $200 or $199, which is what you're going to get with a Raspberry Pi powering it. So, and that's no disrespect to the Raspberry Pi, it's just this price point, that these guys were able to figure out really makes a lot more things possible. The question is, how reliable is this? Once it goes to scale, is it going to be the kind of thing that makes durable products that are worthwhile and what people
In 200 meters, turn right onto Ossington Avenue.
come up with? But with the number that they're selling, they've already gone through their first round of 5,000. That's December, and then another round in January is almost sold out, and then you won't be able to get one until May. I think by mid-next year,
Turn right onto Ossington Avenue.
we're going to be seeing some really interesting things coming out of this.
All All right, CNET reports on a virtual reality theme park called The Void. Now, this article, I am super stoked on this. I saw this yesterday, and I totally kind of lost my mind because this is the answer to every dream that young, nerdy Veronica has had for most of her entire life. Okay, back to the story. CNET reports on a virtual reality theme park called The Void being built in Pleasant Grove, Utah, north of Provo, starting sometime in 2016. Visitors in groups of up to 10 can enter one of 7 60-foot by 60-foot rooms, put on VR headsets, and wander around a world that lets them feel real bark and metal under their fingertips and interact with each other in real time. Creator Ken Bretschneider designed the park and the headsets and hopes to work with outside gaming studios to
Continue on Ossington Avenue for 1.5 kilometers.
create new experiences every 3 months. How effing awesome.
So, is this actually our civilization's first attempt at a real holodeck?
This is like a real holiday. I mean, you still have to wear the gear. There's still that physical hardware element, but at the same time, you're interacting with other human beings who are in the same experience as you are, in real time, in the same space, in a confined space, which is good, I think, for everyone's safety and well-being. But I think it's absolutely fantastic, and this is exactly what we want. And from everything we've seen with, Oculus and all the other VR headsets right now, the experience is just excellent, and it's starting to look really amazing. And I mean, it already does look amazing. So adding this, being able to do it with other people in real time, I think that's amazing.
This is this generation's laser tag. Is what this is. And it's so
But
much
it's
cooler
such a
than
cheesy.
laser tag.
Yeah, I feel like it gets rid of the cheesy element to it.
I think, and to Rod, to your question, I think this is the civilization that invents the holodeck will look at this and go, "Hey, that's almost like a holodeck." That's kind of that, it's like when they show little like short message boards where you would hang your message in a copper plate up on the street in London in the 1800s. People are like, "Hey, it's like Victorian era Twitter." That's the relationship that this will have, I think. TechCrunch reports IDC's numbers show China's smartphone market fell 4% year over year in Q1 as the first time smartphone shipments decreased in the country since 2006. IDC suggests excessive inventory might have been the cause. IDC still tracks 98.8 million shipments in China, so it's not a small market. Apple led the way with 14.7% market share, followed by Xiaomi, Huawei, Samsung, and Lenovo in that order. Please hold your emails correctly.
In 400 meters, your destination will be on the right.
And on the upcoming segment. Ars Technica reports former Castlevania producer Koji Igarashi launched a Kickstarter Monday for a game called Bloodstained. Is that Bloodstained? Is that a mess up in the text? Bloodstained.
There should be no L.
There should be no L there. Yeah, Igarashi was the longest-running producer on the Castlevania series, but left Konami last year. The game will be available as a digital download for backers who give $28 or more.
Your destination is on the right.
Of course, I am a Belmont, so this is particularly of interest to me. My family being part of the Castlevania series, but yeah, this is very exciting. I think people are pretty stoked on this.
Have you watched the video yet with Koji Igarashi?
No.
He kind of like sticks it to Konami a couple times, backhanded wise. He just sort of generally says like, game publishers have been telling me that nobody wants this game anymore, this kind of game anymore, but I say they're wrong. And he's almost made his goal already, so I think he's right.
Awesome.
The Verge reports that Orange Cliff, a 3G phone running Firefox OS, is on sale this week for customers of the Orange networks in Senegal and Madagascar. Phone costs around
of replace my current.
Madagascar. Phone costs around $40 in US dollars. This follows on the heels of Firefox OS phones shipping in South Africa early this year. So Firefox OS's assault on Africa's market, which they announced at Mobile World Congress, continues. And it's a decent smartphone. It's going to get smartphone in the hands of people much faster than a lot of other phones can.
You know, I really like what Mozilla's doing with Firefox OS in these emerging markets, and it, you know, at a low cost like that, connecting people in these kind of countries, and it's a decent OS. I mean, I put that a little bit, and it's, you know, it's definitely, it's I think this can go on to be much bigger than we're anticipating. So.
Yeah, and this is the right strategy for this OS, and a lot of starting OSs are targeting markets like Africa, India, Southeast Asia, in certain places, and it looks like Firefox OS is getting some take-up. Too early to tell for sure. Let's highlight a few things from our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. Abituela con Dulce sent us the Verge story on the FCC's dismissal of a petition to delay the implementation of the Open Internet Order, submitted by a group consisting of AT&T, CenturyLink, US Telecom, and the CTIA. This was the top vote-getter on the subreddit today. The FCC stated that its classification of broadband internet as a telecommunications service falls within its authority and is consistent with Supreme Court precedent. None of this is a surprise. They kind of had to make the protest, and the FCC had to decline it, and it's all going to be worked out in court.
As these things are
As they are,
sometimes,
yeah.
eventually. Star Fury Zeta shared the Huffington Post write-up of the AP report that a source says 4 out of the 50 self-driving cars in use in the state of California have gotten into accidents since September. 3 of the accidents happened to a Google Lexus SUV, and the other to a car operated by Delphi Automotive. Both companies say the accidents were minor and the self-driving cars were not at fault. 2 accidents happened while the cars were in self-driving mode. Yeah, this is the thing that we always talk about with self-driving cars, is that they're really not going to be completely effective until they are the majority. I think as long as we have that human element built into the system, as long as there are predominantly human-driven automobiles on the road, the self-driving cars are going to suffer for it, just because they know what they're doing. They're looking out for themselves. They can tell. It's always the other guy. The human's like, oh, this guy's going too slow. I'm just going to cut him off. And the self-driving car is like, can't compute.
From what I read, I read a few different versions of this story, and a couple of them stated that their source said that they were rear ends. Most of them were the person behind didn't stop fast enough, and they were all at slow speeds. They were all at less than 10 miles per hour. So my guess is, Veronica, it's probably somebody who's following too close, and the self-driving car comes to a nice gradual stop instead of like a jackrabbit stop, and the other person doesn't adapt and runs into them.
Yeah, and watch when you're out there driving. Watch how people stop and go, and it's that natural, humanistic. The car is designed to stop at a certain speed. That stopping distance kind of algorithm, and the car is going to follow that. But humans are going to jam on the brakes or hit the accelerator, and it's going to cause problems.
Only four accidents over this time period, though. That's actually, I think that I would guess. I didn't look this up, but I would guess that's lower than the normal rate of accidents out there.
Probably.
Could be. Miss City submitted the Slate story about Zappos' experiment with a management style called holacracy. It's different than the holodeck. The organizational theory replaces titles and managers with a system of tactical and governance meetings. The project began in 2013, but in March, CEO Tony Hsieh announced the system would apply to all employees and that anyone who is dissatisfied with the decision would be offered severance. 210 employees, about 14% of the company, took the severance and left the company.
The 14% was pretty high. I mean, that's a shocking number, especially of when a large amount of those were management level positions. But when you kind of take away that path to upper management and kind of take away their incentive, many people have in their minds that they're on a career path, they want to continue being given raises, given new jobs higher up in the hierarchy, and now that's kind of being taken away from them. So they're thinking, what has this all been for? And so they leave. But I don't know if Zappos, if Tony Hsieh thought this was going to have the amount of effect that it actually did.
Well, and also you got to kind of consider that. I mean, at pretty much every company I've ever been at, there's been the, hey, if they offer severance, are you going to take it? Oh yeah. There's been that where it's just like people are looking for a way out, where you get a couple of months worth of pay in order to walk out. This is just the excuse to do that. So I think that 14% is probably inflated in that. I'm fascinated by the holacracy, though. I think holacracy. I mean, it's interesting to see. I want to read more and find out what tactical and governance meetings do and how that replaces the hierarchy.
Keep in mind, though, Ron, that Zappos provides a regular payout to people who want to quit, and usually only 1 to 2% of people take that payout.
Interesting.
So they had a very low turnout for that.
Yeah, this over-indexes the normal thing that Zappos does. And Amazon does this with their warehouse, too, and they say it's about 1 to 2% already. I mean, you can look at it and say 86% of the company said, yay, holacracy, and that sounds like a lot. It kind of is depends on how you look at it. But when you compare it, I think, Ron, I think you bring up a great point. There's always like a normal amount of people who can take a payout. And with Zappos, we can tell what that amount is. That's 1 to 2%, right? So that leaves a big chunk of people who are like, I would not normally take the payout, but holacracy, not for me.
Right.
And that is a look at the headlines. All right, let's talk about this Washington Post feature by staff writer Ariana Ungjung Cha, who is writing a series called The Human Upgrade. There have been some really interesting stories in this series. And this one talks about wearables and tracking and the quantified self, the idea of keeping stats about yourself to help you gain insight into who you are, how healthy you are, what kind of person you are, how to improve yourself. The market for wearables is expected to reach $50 billion in sales by 2018, according to Credit Suisse. Gartner forecasts 68.1 million wearables will ship this year. But Deborah Eston, a professor of computer science and public health at Cornell University, is quoted in this Washington Post article saying, getting the data is much easier than making it useful. And that's where the rub lies, right, Veronica?
Yeah, sorry, my watch just actually told me to stand up, so I stretch my legs a little bit.
Mine does that while I'm standing quite often.
Yeah, that's weird. Well, I just had to. Yeah, sorry if you can't hear me with the mic there. Yeah, so this article is that actually just happened. I wasn't just doing that for effect, but also effect. But the wearable thing is fascinating to me because I am a really passionate wearables user, and for me, I love being able to have that data, and I collect it. And we actually all took a quiz, kind of telling us what kind of wearable user we are. And the one that I ended up being was a tracker keeper, which means I'm collecting all this data, I'm putting information into the void. I don't know what I'm going to use it for. I just like having it and knowing that someday maybe I can use it for something. And this goes from my number of steps, my heart rate, sleep scheduling, pretty much everything that I can record at this point, I'm doing it. I did 23andMe. I want my health information. I want my health history. I want to know what I'm potentially up for in future years in terms of health disasters. So this is all for me. It's just more information. I don't ever think that's a bad thing, as long as it doesn't using it in a hypochondriac sense, and maybe you want to use that information for good and not make yourself crazy, and there's a fine line.
Because it's not like the internet and health is a path of hypochondriac insanity of the moment like, oh, I've got a pain, let me look up what that is, and now you can apply data to it and drive it even worse.
I know, so it's definitely you have to manage that aspect.
Well, and she tells the story of astrophysicist Larry Smarr, who is one of the leaders in tracking the self. He tracks 150 parameters about himself, and he found a weird protein marker that is out of the norm. Went to his doctor, and his doctor said, well, how do you feel? He's like, well, I feel fine. And his doctor's like, well, then don't worry about it. And so Larry Smarr has been like still working on like finding out what this tracker is, and he's narrowed down what things are abnormal for him. He believes he has Crohn's disease, which is an inflammatory digestive tract disease, but he still can't narrow down what causes all of these things. And so it does point to here's a guy who's super smart, who's collecting all of this data, and yet the relevance of it is in question because it can't tell him everything he wants it to tell him, at least not yet.
Well, it has a hard time contextualizing all of this data is something that we haven't quite figured out yet, and I think that's something that maybe Apple is working on with the watch and with HealthKit and being able to find a way to make good decisions based on the information that we're being given. But though, for example, like I get migraines several times a month, and I keep a diary that tracks my migraines, tracks what I'm doing at the time, what I ate that day, how much sleep I got, what medicines did I take. And yes, it's not through a wearable, but it's the same kind of idea. It's something that I can go back and look at later and be like, what were the situations, what was going on at the time that I felt this way, or that my heart rate spiked, or why didn't I get good sleep on that particular afternoon or evening? So it's just, for me, it's more data to work from. And I understand that there are many privacy concerns and issues that people are dealing with, and we'll definitely get to that over the course of this discussion. But at the end of the day, if it's not affecting your lifestyle except for the better, then I don't see a problem with tracking all this information and collecting it for myself, and even for me, sharing it. I'm an open book when it comes to my Fitbit information, and for a lot of the other stuff, I'm part of the HealthKit disconnect between people having privacy concerns with like information being hacked from their medical providers versus the willful addition of information on the internet of your own health statistics and tracking information. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Ron, I'm curious, you know, I don't know how much you track about yourself. Maybe you don't track that much, but how do you feel about making that kind of information available?
Well, because I don't track that much, I'm fine with it being available. But I so in the Washington Post news, I ended up as a Slacker tracker, which is not surprising to me at all. And I have an Android Wear watch. I have the watch. I wear it on a semi-regular basis. I use Google Fit to track my exercise activity and my weight and things like that. I'm not as deep as the fast Ron tracking your sleep schedules and all that sort of stuff. Partially because it's really funny because it's like you've got these two sides of the coin. I don't want to know. Like I go through every day, and yeah, I know that down the road there's something going to happen to me, and I'm going to drop dead of a heart attack or at some point.
Terrible.
I know, if you saw the barbecue I ate last night here in San Francisco, you see that I really don't pay much attention to what I eat, and like I want to live an ignorant life because I feel like that's kind of more kind of freeing. But
Okay, all right. Well,
That's
like very deep conversations here.
it's a fair question though, because this has come up with 23andMe and its genetics profiling, is saying having a gene that indicates you have a chance of getting a disease doesn't mean you will get it necessarily. It's not that definitive. And so tracking all of this medical information, your heart rate and everything, I still feel like it doesn't tell me much. I'm not sure what to make of all of this. I've got the Apple Watch, I've been trying it out, and I've been looking at the activity tracker, and so I open the activity app and I'm like, okay, but what does this say? What does it tell me? And there is a certain part of me that's almost glad that I can't tell what it says, because Ron, if you were to know you had a gene that predicted you have a higher chance of getting a horrible disease, it doesn't mean you'll get it. So there's an argument to be made that, hey, you know what, but you could take preventative measures that will lower that risk even more, which is good, but it also means you could be living in fear of something that might never happen.
Right. And that's the thing, is that the way I look at it is that the body is the most complex machine on the planet, and there are people who are much smarter than me who haven't figured this stuff out. And I guess it depends on your different kind of personality type. Veronica might be a personality type that wants to have all that data, feel like be actioning, making decisions off of it, where I'm the idiot who's going to walk into a wall because I'm not tracking that there's a wall there. And that becomes a personality type. But for me, reading that article and seeing what that guy's tracking, all those, he's got the monitors with all of his different data points, it's just exhausting. I mean, I have a hard enough time keeping track of what I'm doing during a regular week on from a scheduling basis, much less what my resting heart rate is versus all these sort of, kind of things. But I think what's interesting is that, and coming out of the article, is that what that data that you capture and sharing it publicly and how it comes back to kind of haunt you. I mean, the example of the bicyclist who got into a car accident and the prosecutors used his Strava data to figure out that he was cycling at an illegal speed, at a faster speed than he should have been, and all those kind of things. That was never his intention when he signed up for Strava. He was going to track his cycling, and now it had a hand in his prosecution.
But that was public information, though, wasn't it? I mean, they didn't have to. I don't think they had to subpoena Strava in order to get that information. This was something that he opted into, and I think that's another big step that we as a society have to take.